the hell? What the hell's all this mess? Sugar. Okay. What the hell?
What?
Hello?
Barry's gotta eat. I let myself in when you were at work.
Where the hell did you get my keys?
And by let myself in, I mean I busted your window with a baseball and descended upon your sugary treats.
Why my place? You could have gone anywhere. What am I talking about? Fairies aren't even real!
Yeah, obviously I'm not real. I'm just a filament of your brain pictures. And I'm here because you got a good place to cook. Now get out of here.
Yeah, but I'm not the only second floor apartment. Wait, are you snorting it? You can at least pay me rent.
Tinkerbell's in your room, waiting to make you fly.
Well, great to have you. Nice to see you. See you later. Salutations, Expansioteers. This is me and my co-host Ambrosius saying hello and welcome to another episode of Expansion Theory. Gamewright is a game company that specializes mostly in little kid games, but I'm a big fan of them and I've discovered some really cool little gems in the thrift store that people have either overlooked or never heard of in the first place. While simple, a lot of their games are also a lot of fun, even if they're meant for children. Generally a lot of preschool learning stuff, like they teach numbers or reading, or they work on reflexes or things like that. It says so right on the box, which is kind of cool. It says what you're getting into with your little kids. While a lot of them are just too simple, a lot of them are complex enough that even I keep coming back to them. An adult male can find these games pretty cool. There's, in fact, a game that I really like called Landlock, which is sort of a Carcassonne type game where you place down tiles one at a time. The only difference is that, unlike Carcassonne, there's not a really cool advanced scoring system at the end, which is sort of a shame. Even though the game is meant for little children, in fact, it's a Mensa Select because it teaches, let's see, mythical map strategy game. It says it specifically. No, it doesn't. I lied. Never mind. Anyway, most of the boxes, this is an oldie game, most of the boxes say what they learn. But, well, hold on. Oh yeah, alright, it's in the instruction book. See, I'm not a liar. It says, while playing you employ a variety of complex thinking skills like visual discrimination and spatial relations to achieve your goal. See, I wasn't a liar. Anyway, point is, Landlock is really neat. It's all about placing tiles and making a map of the mythical world of Landlock. But I'm gonna mess with it and tinker it and make it a little more fun for adults as well. So Landlock is a game about creating a mystical map of Landlock. You do this by taking turns placing tiles one at a time until you get a 6x6 grid. There we go. Thus completing the magical map. It's a two-player game, which is great considering most games nowadays are 3 and up, and players take the role of either streams or paths. Actually, let me show you a better tile. Streams or paths. You can see on the board here, there's paths, there's a bunch of streams. After placing all the tiles, each player will count up their score by noting how many continuous streams or paths they have and how many sides of the map each one of those touches. For instance, if a path touches 2 sides of the map, see, 1, 2, the player will score 5 points. 3 sides, 7 points, and all 4 sides, 10 points. The same for streams. But besides that, you can also score for any islands or ponds you've created. So here's the beginning of a little pond. There's no islands on this map. As well as any facing gnomes of your type at the end of the game. So the path land player will score because these gnomes are all facing each other. Finally, there are tussocks. That's these guys right here. This is the mole tussock. And they're these little cute monsters you can place and score a single point. The game has no major strategy element to it except placing bridges, which are these right here, which can cancel out other paths or streams, and when you place them down, they force the other player to take the tile you just placed. So for instance, let's say I didn't want him to have all these gnomes here. I would take that out and make a bridge here, take away his gnome, and that way it went from path to allowing a stream to go through. Adorable, bright, cute artwork, but it needed more. Thus, I bring you my Landlock expansion, GNOME Zoo Switcheroo! Woo-ha! Now, the problem I had with this game is that the artwork is freaking adorable. Each tile is lushly illustrated, but it's all fluff. Except for the gnomes, none of the supplemental stuff has any bearing on the game. These little mice and fairies, they really do nothing. And they're repeating elements, so naturally, I brought it upon myself to rectify this scenario. So to start, both players get 7 chips of their color to place on tiles, sort of like the meeples in Carcassonne. In my case, I'm going to use these cool little plastic acorns. And like Carcassonne, a player may only place a chip on a feature of a tile just placed on their turn. All the regular rules for Landlock work here, but scoring works a little bit differently. Let me show you the tile features that do new stuff. A lot of tiles have swimming frogs and mice. Swimmy frogs go to the stream player and mice go to the path player, obviously, and anybody who places a tile with their feature scores 1 point right away without spending a chip. But if they do spend a chip, they gain 1 more point immediately and claim that critter for a possible later bundle of critters, which I'll explain a little later in the segment. Any player may claim a land frog with 1 chip for 1 point at the end of the game. Most things score at the end. If any land frogs are claimed that are placed next to dragonflies or fairies, those get eaten, and the player who'd claimed those fairies or dragonflies don't get their chips back. However, it's okay to place chips on them turns after the frog has been placed. So let's say the frog is already there, somebody places a dragonfly, then the chip is okay. Any player may claim a dragonfly with 2 chips, and he's worth 6 points at the end of the game. Any player may claim a fairy with 1 chip, here's the little fairy right there, and it's worth 1 point at the end of the game. But also, fairies collect mushrooms. Whoa, there we go. Any fairies with adjacent or diagonal mushrooms gain an extra 1 point per mushroom at the end of the game. They don't have to place a chip on the mushroom, the fairy just eats them. Tussocks are wild cards that do different things, and of the 3, there are the mole tussock, which eats mushrooms and destroys gem deposits. A mole scores 1 point per adjacent or diagonal mushroom immediately, and those mushrooms cannot be claimed by fairies at the end of the game. They also destroy gem deposits, returning those chips to any player who had already claimed them. Raccoon tussocks collect and eat chips. One of these placed adjacent or diagonal to the chips of any player eats those chips. It scores 1 point per chip eaten, and those are not given back to their players. Dragon tussocks chase all other creatures. If placed adjacent to dragonflies, fairies, swimming or land frogs, mice, or even other tussocks, it will chase them, scoring 2 points for each adjacent or diagonal critter, and for every creature connected to a bundle of critters, which I'll explain next. This is scored immediately, and all chips chased are returned to their owners, so these ones chased off of the dragonfly and the frog go back to the people that put them down in the first place. Finally, for creatures, a bundle of critters is when any number of creature tiles, that's mice, frogs, fairies, etc., are placed adjacent to each other, not diagonal. So these would be legal, but this dragonfly is not connected directly, it's diagonal. These ones are all adjacent, so that works. They're claimed when a player either has a chip already on it or when a player places a chip on a critter adjacent to another critter. So let's say I place this land frog and this land frog I place a chip on, he is now able to collect all the chips for that bundle of critters. Any 2 creatures counts as a bundle. Now occasionally during the game, separate bundles of critters will be connected. This dragonfly over here is not connected because he's not adjacent. He's only diagonal to this other bundle of critters. But let's say these 3 tiles are placed down. This dragonfly is connected. This is adjacent, that's adjacent, that's adjacent, that's adjacent. So that connects the bundle of critters. Now what happens? How do we solve this? Since it's one big bundle of critters, one player has their icon on it and another player has 2 of their icons on it. What happens is, if separate bundles meet over time, by placing tiles that connect their bundles, they split the score evenly with one another, unless one player has more chips connected to a bundle by the game's end, in which case that player takes the points. In this case, the dragonfly is claimed with 2. The mouse is claimed with 1 leaf. So the dragonfly player would keep all the score for this bundle of critters. When scoring a bundle of critters, in a bundle, mice, swimming, or land frogs score 1 point at the end of the game. Fairies and dragonflies score 2 points at the end of the game. And tussocks score 3 points at the end of the game. Besides creatures, there are also gem deposits. A player may spend 3 chips to claim one for 10 huge points at the end of the game. Just remember that mole tussocks will eat the deposits, so the chips are returned to the player. So finally, any gnome placed that's a stream or a path gnome that is placed adjacent, not diagonal, to a tile with a chip on it may clean those chips and return them to the player. And when I say adjacent, not diagonal, I mean that this gnome is facing this tile, so it can clean this 1 chip, but this tile is diagonal, so it can't clean those. However, that gnome is facing that way, so it can clean those chips, and the chips that you take off go back to the player that owned them. And briefly in the normal game, to expand on the ponds and islands theme, if you're the path player and you make an island, or if you're the stream player and you make an island, or you're the path player and you make a pond, you'll score extra points. But in the Gnome Zoo Switcheroo, sort of change that around. The whole reason this game is called Gnome Zoo Switcheroo is because you can create enclosures. This dragonfly in the middle, if you can find a way to enclose that dragonfly or any creature, if you can enclose it with either a full stream or a full path, you can get a ton of points at the end of the game. If any player is able to completely enclose a creature with their streams or paths, they gain points at the end. Mice, swimming, or land frogs give 3 points. Fairies or dragonflies give 5 points, and tussocks give 10 points. Although a bridge will destroy these enclosures. So there you have it. It may seem a lot more complex, but it's pretty simple. The scoring is just like Carcassonne, and if you haven't played Carcassonne, then you really should, because it's like the big kid version of this game. So I left the rules up at my blog at expansiontheory.wordpress.com. And I also made a little printable scoring track to help you keep track of the separate tiles as you're scoring at the end of the game. Also, if you Gamewright games, you should really check them out. Ooh, lost an ear! They're a fantastic company. They're really cool, especially if you have kids. Take a look. Their games are generally pretty affordable. They're really neat. They're wonderful, not only for teaching, but for giving kids a solid gamer foundation that they can build on. And gaming makes you smarter. That's a fact. If you agree or disagree, feel free to spout obscenities or hate mail about my mother. Let me know. Just give me an email at earthwormproductions@gmail.com. And remember, until next time, stay critical! Keep rolling those 20s. And I'll see you next time on Expansion Theory.